Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this super fine Thursday night by Raj Chapalu. The Lakers just beat that Celtics ass. The Lakers improved to 24-18, 6 games above 500. I think that's the highest they've been all season.
Yep.
And this was a start to finish ass kicking. Raj, before I throw to you, I'm going to go ahead and welcome in friend of my shows. I don't think he's appeared on the lounge, but he certainly appeared on Locked On Lakers back in the day. James Worthy, thank you very much for hopping in.
Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like.
I'm sorry, Raj. The guests are stacking up, but I gotta make room for everybody here who has thoughts about the Celtics. Adrian Brody, star of Winning Time, has some thoughts on tonight's events as well. Oh, look at that! He was joined by some friends. In case you guys didn't catch it, here's one more time. You know what? One more time. You know what? You can't play this enough. The Los Angeles Lakers beat the absolute shit out of the Boston Celtics 117-96. They were absolutely dominant defensively. They ran, I thought, there were some stretches there where they were a little undisciplined offensively too, whatever. But for the most part, knew what they had to do against the Celtics from start to finish in this one. Raj, how good? I know the last couple weeks of talking about this team have really just kind of worn us down and beaten us down. It's really nice to be able to turn around and beat the absolute shit out of those losers from the other coast. How's this feel?
This was great. This is the best win of the season. They kept comparing it, Anthony, to the last year where we beat Boston on the road. That was fun for what it was, but that was a game where neither AD or LeBron played. This felt like a playoff game. This felt like a very serious game between both LeBron and AD. I don't remember either of them really cheering or getting excited. It looked all business, and they came out, and you could tell from the first quarter, from every player that came in knew their job. And I haven't seen LeBron this locked in on the defensive end, I thought, in a very long time. AD was monstrous and dominated the Porzingis and Horford matchup. No, this was the win of the year. This is exciting. JJ coached maybe his best game of the year. His timeouts were on point. I thought the rotation was on point as well. I thought he put in centers where he needed to. And Boston, Anthony, folded with 8 minutes to go.
That was
crazy. Threw the white flag, 8 minutes to go. Reggie was talking about, maybe they're tired because of second night of back-to-back. I don't want to hear any of that. I understand they were on a second night of a back-to-back. They also rested 8 guys the night before. They also obviously didn't take that Clipper team all too serious. Who also rested a bunch of guys, I believe. A lot of the Clipper main guys didn't play. They had their G-Leaguers out there, so it was an overtime game. But this was a wire-to-wire beatdown of arguably the most talented team in basketball. Just 1 through whatever their roster, 1 through 15. Might be the most talented roster in basketball, and this was a wire-to-wire dominant finish that I thought showed what the Lakers' ceiling is. Obviously, the floor doesn't change, but to me, this showed what the ceiling could be, which is super exciting. And we kept showing our general manager's face was showing on the screen a few times as well. Felt like some messages were being texted up there, but no, this is amazing. I'm on a hell of a high, natural high. This is just absolutely incredible.
I can't believe you don't have an adult beverage for this one. I poured an extra glass of wine for this. I usually have 11 o'clock rule. It was 11:08 when I poured my last glass of wine for this one. Here's my thing. In general, I'm very much a stop and smell the roses kind of guy. We're only here once on this big dumb green earth that we live on. But like on top of it, with this team and with this season and with this like era of Lakers basketball, I think you really have to stop and enjoy these kinds of moments. There's a lot that goes into this moment too, and we'll get to all of what it means here in a little bit. But like, I find myself like, I found myself over the course of the game just all right. I'm not comparing the two events, but when I got married, one of my buddies, I'll never forget it. One of my buddies was like, "Hey, while you're at your wedding, we're here in this building that we're all in together, stop and take a look around and take it all in, because you don't know when or if you'll be in a building with all of these same people ever again, and take that, like, every single moment, every chance you get, take a step back and just enjoy the fact, soak in the fact that, like, you are in a building with all of the people that you care about, all of the people that you love, all of the people that your spouse loves and cares about. Just take it in. And in this one, like, I found myself intentionally kind of taking a step back
Yeah.
and just taking it in, because given like the state of things and given how like the season has gone, I wouldn't put it past the Lakers getting their asses kicked on Saturday when they get Jared Vanderbilt back. I wanted to
Awesome.
I wanted to stop and soak this in, because the Celtics went on a historic run last year on their way to a championship. They were historically dominant last year. They have been a lot more frustrating this year to Celtics fans. But I don't care. Like, it's still a great roster. It's the reigning champions. It's a team that is still like they are like 7 games behind Cleveland, but they are still like right there in the thick of it in the Eastern Conference.
Favorite.
Same core, all that stuff. Betting favorite, I still believe, to win a championship.
Absolutely.
And like this is a Celtics team that the Lakers should not beat, let alone beat their asses the way that the Lakers did in this one. And I found myself just kind of sitting back and just enjoying it. And I like, frankly, like, we'll talk about like what all goes on here in a bit, but like, to start the show, to those of you who tune in on a nightly basis, like, let's all enjoy this. I got my glass of wine. I don't know what you guys are sipping on, but cheers, everybody. Like, let's just enjoy it. It's just, this is great. This is an amazing win. And I know that we aren't supposed to celebrate 1 of 82, but I am. Fuck it.
Well,
I absolutely am.
So I'm out of my celebratory apple juice, so I didn't have that in the fridge. But I got my ice cold water. No, this is not just 1 of 82 though. This is a very good, Boston team that you just beat. Like, this matters more than, you just blew out the Wizards. That's 1 of 82 to me. I've obviously never been married, but I mean, just the only thing I can compare it to from this season, where I knew it was special. And I feel the same way about this game, Anthony, where like this, if the Lakers use this right, this can springboard into something better. Was when I was in the building for when I'm forgetting his name, who hit the walk-off home run in game 1 of the series. Freddie Freeman, yes. And the whole crypto arena found out at the same time. And that just, there was a level of life and blood in the arena that, you just can't create in any other situation. And you kind of felt that, I thought, from the crowd tonight. The crowd understood the assignment. I thought LeBron and AD understood the assignment. And you go down the roster here, Jackson Hayes understood the assignment. I thought this was a grown-up game for Max Christie, who's continuing to grow up before our eyes. Dalton Connect understood the moment. Didn't come in, and he came in a little bit, shy of shots at first, but went and knocked down a few threes. This is a team-wide win, man. And just you can go down the roster, and there's not a player I thought that didn't contribute, right? Sometimes this player didn't play. I thought everybody played well, contributed, and was up for the fight again against a Boston team that's very good, that's very calculated. Mazzulla is a very smart basketball coach. I feel like him and JJ are cut from similar cloths. No, this is more than 1 at 82. This can be a huge springboard. I thought, this was an important game to get and at least be competitive in, which kind of shows how I felt about this one. But to go out and just dominate the Celtics, this is a big time win where they were fully healthy. This was only their 13th game, Anthony, I think they said on the broadcast, where they had their full starting 5. And again, Reggie Miller was making some reasons
God,
for
he
Drew
was annoying
Holiday.
in this one.
I mean, like Drew Holiday's not healthy. That's fine. I understand it, but let the Lakers have their
The Lakers
dominant win
literally don't
without.
have Jared Vanderbilt. They haven't been healthy at all this year. They
Yeah.
have played 0 games with their full rotation. Shut the bleep up, Reggie Miller. Just shut up. Like, just go away. Like, I
It was
honestly,
a
like,
rough listen.
I wish
Rough listen.
some like TNT producer would be like, oh, sorry, Reggie, we can't. We've lost Reggie. We cannot hear from Reggie in this one. Kevin
Yeah.
Harlan was his typical great self, but
Awesome.
you know what else I thought like really added to how much this game mattered was the fact that it was the Lakers in their banana yellows, but their home golds,
Mhm.
and it was the Boston Celtics in their Boston green,
What a
and
concept.
it was the typical like traditional LA bright gold court. It was like everything. The only thing that was missing was Mike Breen, right? And it would have felt like one of those classic Celtics games. Although I think I kind of prefer Kevin Harlan to Mike Breen, if I'm being honest. But it's just like it was great to see these traditional brands, the marquee franchises of the NBA going up against each other and looking like the marquee franchises and brands of the NBA going up against each other. And then it also helped that the Lakers, again, very importantly here, did this.
Hit that Celtic ass. I like that. Hit that Celtic ass. I like that. Hit that Celtic ass. I like
Almost a like 100% chance that I'm getting sued by Michael Jackson and this isn't monetizable. But you know what? I don't even care. Totally worth it. Give me that James Worthy clip as much as I possibly can get it. We'll get into like the actual basketball here in a second, but you mentioned like JJ Redick and his coaching and going up against somebody like Missoula, who is a way older, like way beyond his years as an NBA coach.
Yep.
I think it means a lot that JJ gets this win, right? Because like everything about JJ is kind of they're trying to write out a story, right? They're like he's like a young Pat Riley, and he's this suave debonair guy, and he's this good looking guy, and he's great on the mic, and he's all these things. But I think it's also really important that he picks up big wins like this one, and he gets to like his first chapter in the Lakers Celtics rivalry is an absolute ass kicking.
And he's a competitive MFer.
Oh, for sure.
They tried a few times in the broadcast to kind of get him to kind of go back and forth with Missoula. He just would not do it. Would not throw a single compliment that way. Would not do a single thing. And I love the like kind of mid-game questions that he was kind of answering there. He's just like, nope, small answers. We're gonna focus on the win. But no, he was awesome. I thought the timeouts were perfectly placed. I thought he played the correct guys. When Boston went on a mini 6-0 to 7-0 run, he would call a quick timeout. He did a nice job kind of focusing on the switching. I thought the game plan was excellent. That takes a lot of guts to be like, hey, Max Christie, you're guarding Porzingis, and we're fine with it. We're not sending you help at all. It takes a lot of guts to call that. And Boston right on the other end was like, okay, we're gonna spam this action. Let's see how long you stick with it. And the Lakers stuck with it. And that's, again, this is a personnel thing too. They just did not have the personnel to do this in, I think, previous years, but just to live with Max Christie guarding Porzingis or Rui on Porzingis or DFS, whoever it was, to just single coverage it and gave the Lakers a nice cushion. And then on the other end to trust Austin Reeves with the basketball and just say, hey, you go cook, their center. I thought he coached a fantastic game. And JJ's first game against the Celtics. Again, I see a lot of similarities in Missoula and him. They just feel like they're both very psychopaths who live and breathe this stuff. And even though you just mentioned all the qualities of JJ, of he's a pretty looking boy or whatever it is, like all that, dude's a competitive MFer. And I think you're starting to see that. Lakers 6 games up over 500, and that's the highest mark they've been. I think that's the highest mark since 2021, Anthony. I'm pretty sure they haven't been 6 games up since then. So yeah, this is just a fantastic win.
All right, let's dive into the actual basketball. You kind of hinted at it there, like the approach to this game. Reggie Miller just would not let us think about anything else early, but the Lakers made a concerted effort to get Boston off of their 3-point shooting rhythm early. They were running them off the line. They were throwing bad matchups against guys to hopefully entice the Celtics into a lot of post up mid-range twos and stuff like that didn't involve other players. I really think, I kind of mocked Reggie on Twitter for how often he was bringing it up, and it felt like every possession he was bringing it up. If it felt that way because it was actually that way.
It was, yeah.
But like, it's still worth pointing out that approach, I think, really worked wonders for the Lakers. And then on the other end of things, they kept themselves out of transition, either by scoring the basketball or at least getting good looks. But I think this game all started on the defensive end.
100%. And, it's funny, I texted our friend Sabrina. I was like, can LeBron do this every night? And I'm not sure if he can, but I feel like the Lakers are going to kind of at least need somewhat of a baseline level of defensive effort. And I thought it all started with him. You can't have those,
The more important thing, sorry to cut you off. The more important thing is that they can get that every like they can get it 4 out of the 7 times in series in the playoffs. Like we have now seen what it looks like when LeBron is that. We haven't seen that this year, Raj. Like this is the most focused we've seen him defensively. I don't care about getting it every night or even close to this every night. I need it in the postseason. And to this point in the season, the actual most like scariest aspect of the season to this point is that we hadn't seen him flip the switch, or when it looked like he was trying to flip the switch, he wasn't getting to this level. Tonight he got to that level, and I thought was an absolute impact player defensively. Sorry,
you're good. It changed everything, and like my point, I guess, being was LeBron really didn't get it going offensively until the fourth quarter. I think he had like 14 going into it, and if you can lesser his offensive load, and tonight Austin was able to carry it, and he got AD was a great passer, I thought, tonight of the double teams that Boston sent his way. But if you can kind of lower that offensive load a little bit, I know that's not really how this works. This isn't 2K where you can kind of move the buttons around to give more offensive energy versus defensive energy. But I saw it again tonight. I think the Lakers kind of might need LeBron's defensive just force more than sometimes even the offensive production that he'll eventually bring. But tonight, I thought, again, off the helps off Porzingis, where we had Max Christie on him, LeBron was right there. You can go and watch LeBron box out tonight. And again, it's not stuff that he can probably do every night, but he was taking 2 to 3 guys with him on box out and going and get the board. And then on the other end, kind of facilitating. But no, this defense was fantastic. This was as locked in as I've seen the team. And I don't know how JJ can get this on a night-to-night basis. Maybe you can't. Maybe this is a bar that you can't reach. But it just felt like from a focus standpoint, from a mental standpoint, the team was locked into what the game plan was. And the whole point of giving those twos, and some of those were a little bit, they were trying to make them more difficult twos than Porzingis eventually got to. But what it does, Anthony, was get him off the 3-point line, get him off the foul line, right? So you're not fouling, you're not giving them threes, and you're taking away the rim with AD there. So really, you're trying to give up the long twos, and Boston kind of conceded some of those. Some of those were a little bit Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown settling as well. They have a tendency to do that at times. But no, the game plan was awesome. You were up, 17 at halftime? And then Boston, I think, punched back a little bit. But other than that, this was a wire-to-wire. I don't think they ever got it in their single digits. This was a double-digit wire-to-wire. Yeah, in the second half at all. Just a dominant defensive performance for the whole team, really.
Yeah, it was, it got a little away from them at the end there, with garbage time and then that like weird stretch before garbage time and stuff like that. So it kind of inflated the number here where they finished with 96 points, but they were, Boston scored 48 in the first half and then 20 points in the third quarter. Lakers absolutely shut off their water. That has not been done to the Celtics really this year. I know everybody's favorite guy on this channel is Matt Moore, but he wrote about like the way that Boston gets you, and they just absolutely out-math you night in, night out. And I actually think we saw that early in the third quarter, where by the way, that third quarter they scored 20 points. They opened up the quarter with like 8 points, which means like they finished, from 4 minutes on for the rest of the quarter, they only scored 12. But they, like they have a identity, they have a culture, they have a, very analytical approach to offense. And I thought, I think JJ took a great time out in the fourth quarter because he saw the Lakers were starting to, like, basically anytime the Celtics were getting good looks from 3-point range, JJ was calling a timeout, reminding his guys, no, force them to get, take those couple steps at least within the 3-point line, force their offense to operate in places that they aren't very comfortable operating. And by the way, like, if I'm the rest of the league, I just watch the Lakers, who aren't as well equipped as other teams in the league. I just watch the formula to beating the Boston Celtics. Run them off the line, like get them up, like the Clippers did it to them last night too, right? Where it's like do not ever let them be comfortable around the 3-point line, and do that, 4 out of 7 times in a playoff series. I think this Celtics team is the most beatable that they've been in the last couple of years in that kind of a setting. And like, I've been saying it this whole last week. I will go down swinging. I will go down on this ship that is Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I will always invest capital into giving those guys opportunities to win. But only as it pertains to these Celtics, like, that's a potential buzzsaw off of the map that is now very kind of ordinary. And I as much as Cleveland has been overwhelming this year, I don't necessarily believe in them in a playoff setting either. So like, the season, the more wide open it continues to look, and we'll see what OKC turns into once they get Chet back. But like, the more wide open the season continues to look, and with more wins like this, and now look, like, this is not how games against teams above 500 have gone for the Lakers this year. Those games have typically gone pretty poorly, but still, like, you get a few wins like this, you take care of business as often as you can. And if you're the Lakers, and if you're able to like kind of hang in that 3-4 seed range or 4-5 seed range, like, Rob has no choice, I don't think, but to invest more capital into this roster.
Yeah, look, I hope that's the plan. And LeBron and AD definitely, it felt like, sent a message. And AD, I thought, again, we haven't spoke too much about him, but I thought he was just incredible. Horford could not guard.
Oh my God, yeah. Let's spend some time on AD.
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching Horford guard AD, and I was like, that's what a 40-year-old guy like should look like. Like, that's what it is supposed to look like.
He's even like fully balding. Like, every time AD would get a foul on the weak side of the court from where the cameras are, right? And Horford would be yelling at the referee that's like on the bench side of the court.
Yeah.
And you would see like how thin he is out back. I'm like, that guy should not be. This is kind of mean.
No,
like,
it
can
is.
You guys give him a switch?
Austin had a crossover on him, which was basically elderly abuse. Like, it was just nasty. He got at the rim, he got fouled. It didn't get called. But no, AD was incredible. His passing, I thought, was on point. His mid-range jumper was there. He was driving to the basket every single time. He was getting and ones, and just looked such in control. I think he had 9 points in the first quarter, 9 points and 4 rebounds in like the first quarter. Dominated that matchup. I'm not exactly sure what he finished with, but he was getting to the basket, at will. And, to your point on Boston, it's just, I think this is kind of who they've been. They did win the title last year, but this is kind of what Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, this is the kind of knock on them, right? It's just like, when things go bad, they still, let's just see if my jump shot's there. Oh, it's not there. All right, let's see if it's there again. And it's not there. Yeah. And that's kind of what they do. So that's kind of what Boston is. And that their math game works most of the time. The other teams you mentioned, OKC, and we'll see what Dallas is if they're healthy. But you're right. It's a wide open league, Anthony. I mean, Lakers are 6 games above 500. They get their Scottie Pippen defender back, as he's been sold as throughout the season. So, I'm hoping Jared Vanderbilt can come close to the kind of expectations we kind of have set on him. But, DFS looks like he's settled in. Like, this team is ready for a jump. Before I kick it to you, I thought it was interesting. I think Reggie Miller, again, kind of not broke news, but it feels like he said things that were like said in a room where they were like, hey, let's not let this leave this room. but but instead it got like gone to the broadcast where he mentioned, Rob Pelinka, I guess, came in their green room and said, yeah, we're not trading any first round picks for immediate help, which, kind of is against everything that with all the quotes that are coming out today from AD doing the sit down with Shams, LeBron bringing up that
No. All right. Here's how this has gone.
Okay.
This is probably getting aggregated, so I'm just going to dive on in. And I'm a few glasses of wine into. So, like, what could possibly go wrong? So, essentially, the Lakers traded D'Angelo Russell's expiring contract, and they didn't include a first rounder then.
Yes.
And that's when, like, kind of cap savvy trade machine type people in Clutch were like, wait a sec, hold on. And so that was like the first kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen a dog when they sense there's a threat nearby, the hairs on the back of their neck stand up.
Okay.
That was like the first moment, or like, when the hairs stand up on your arm, right?
Mhm.
You don't necessarily know what's out there in the forest if you're camping, but there's something out there and you don't like it.
Something to be scared of. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like the first kind of moment of alertness there. And then based on like the way that, because I've been talking to people around the league that are trying to like make something happen here with the Lakers. And the initial explanation was, well, we got to wait and see what the team looks like when Jared Vanderbilt gets back. And from there, we'll make our decision. Right. And I wrote about it on Clutch Points in my, not today's article, but the last one. And by the way, I'll be narrating 2 articles for today's lowdown after this episode. But, in talking to people who would be making some of these deals with the Lakers, they're like, we all wish we had all of our players always available for these large sample sizes to be able to make our decisions. That's just not how it works. So they could kind of see through that excuse because it's just not a realistic expectation to have your entire roster available for as often as you would like and then make your decisions based off of that. So, like, obviously it's a small world. So that kind of gets back to, again, Clutch and LeBron and AD, and they're kind of like, okay, all right, let's see how this goes. And then basically anytime a team would, the Lakers were like purposefully calling teams around the league about players who wouldn't cost first round draft capital.
Mhm.
And then those teams, if they did have players that are worthy of first round draft capital, they would kind of bring them up and be like, well, what do you think about this guy? And the Lakers would be like, we're just kind of focused on these guys, and when that got back to LeBron and AD, that's how like trade conversations were going. That's when you got that Shams report that like LeBron and AD are, quote, concerned that the Lakers aren't actually going to make the kind of impactful trade that they are looking for from Rob Pelinka, given the assets that he has at his disposal. And then on top of that, just to make sure, and this is where it's interesting, Raj, on top of all of that, we have heard Anthony Davis, like there was the famous moment or infamous moment where DeAndre Jordan was sitting there at the Spectrum desk at a media day, and Anthony Davis walks by and he like thanked Rob Pelinka for bringing in DeAndre Jordan because it meant that he didn't have to play center or start at center. And so like Anthony Davis, this is the very first time for him as a Laker, and maybe for him as an NBA player, because even when he was with the New Orleans Pelicans, right, he wore the "That's all, folks" shirt, and then afterwards blamed like his stylist or something like that,
They
right?
say he
Like
doesn't take out his clothes. Yeah.
he's just like he doesn't want like his hands dirty or whatever. This is the first time that Anthony Davis, as an NBA player and specifically as a Laker, sat in a one-on-one with the number one voice for ESPN in a primetime spot for SportsCenter that he knew and Clutch knew was going to go viral before the game, and sat down and he said, I want a center, and we need more moves beyond that. We know we need more help. And then also on top of this, Raj, and I'm sorry for rambling here, but
Good.
the last couple of games, there have been a couple of moments, and I noticed the last one against the Wizards where the Lakers were up by like 20 or so points. And I think I brought this up to you. We talked after the Wizards game, right? There was a moment after the Wizards game where Rui missed a rotation. AD fouled somebody at the basket, and he had the ball after the guy missed the shot at the basket and was fouled on it. AD gets like the quote unquote rebound that doesn't actually count, and he like pounds the ball into the ground. And then he looks at Rui, and he like scolds him for the rotation that he missed that led to AD picking up this foul that happened when the Lakers were going to win the game. They were up by 20 late, all that stuff. Then it happened again tonight, Raj, where who's the Luke Cornett, right?
Luke Cornett.
Yeah. So he like kind of completely moved Rui out of the way on an offensive rebound. And it led to either an and one or just a foul that Luke missed the layup on. And again, they're going and getting ready to stand there, get ready for free throws. And LeBron is going at Rui.
Yeah.
Basically telling him, you can't get moved like that. You outweigh the guy, all of that stuff, right? You got to be stronger than that. And he's going at Rui, and he kept going at Rui. And I think LeBron and AD are very aware of the fact that the guy that the Lakers have to move, if they're going to get immediate help, is Rui Hachimura. Yeah. And I think they've been waiting, they've been patient, they've been even hoping that Rui would figure it out. But I thought he played overall okay in this one.
I thought he had some big shots. Yeah.
I thought he hit big shots. He had a couple big rebounds, stuff like that. But I do think that Anthony Davis and LeBron James are very aware of the fact that if the Lakers are going to get the kind of help that they know they need, it's going to require moving Rui Hachimura. And I think you bring all of this stuff together, and I think it leads to a very obvious kind of outcome here.
I love that, AD again today brought up how he wants to play with a center, and that's something he's echoed, I feel like, for summers now. And honestly,
4 years.
As in a fan perspective, like I would have liked this conversation to happen in the summer, like in July. Like it should be something you should be screaming in microphones at that time. But now I think it's a little bit tougher where, Rob can go and say, oh, this guy's not available, or we couldn't find the right center, or, Anthony Davis, here's Trey Jameson. How about him? How about that be your guy that you, how about that be the guy you play next to? But no, he didn't. And again, I thought AD, that speaks volumes that he would go out and, AD doesn't seem like a guy that wants to do that kind of stuff. Doesn't seem like that's kind of in his kind of DNA to go and sit down with Shams. And I'm sure Shams asked for this or however it was kind of set up. But doesn't seem like a guy that wants to go out and have to do those kind of things. Seems like a guy that just wants to kind of play basketball. But you're right. I think like if you're looking at the Lakers and you look at the deals that they have to be made, and I always try to caution because I think Rui Hachimura, Anthony, gets looked at in this lens of what he doesn't do or what his skills aren't, right, or what he's lacking as a player. But again, I thought tonight he was fantastic. He had a bunch of corner threes when they needed it. He was aggressive.
Matters for sure.
It does, and he was another guy that, again, I talk about personnel to be able to play the defensive style that you want to be able to guard Porzingis with a bigger guy who has a lower center of gravity. Rui was a guy they threw on him as well, and I thought he boxed out well. Got back in transition, was, locked in on the defensive end. There was the play there that you spoke about LeBron, I think, getting mad at him for a lapse in kind of mental focus. But other than that, I thought he was just really good, and he's been consistent. But if you're going to want to trade somebody, here comes the tough part, Anthony, because another guy who had a great game was Gabe Vincent, who was awesome. He had like 4 threes, defended the ball, defended Peyton Pritchard, was running off screens, passed up on 1 or 2 shots, but other than that, ran the backup point guard very well. But if you need to make a trade now because D'Lo's moved, and to your point, you didn't attach any first round equity to D'Angelo Russell, the other 2 guys next up are Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent. It gets tough. It gets trickier and trickier to trade them as they play better. So this is where it gets really, it's tough because now you can't just trade them without getting pieces back that at least fill in for the production they do, which will be interesting to see how Pelinka in the front office moves off of that. But no, great team win, and front office is on the clock. Really, the Stars did their job. They played well. We'll see what they do against Golden State on Saturday. We get Jared Vanderbilt back, which is, I feel like we're putting a lot of eggs in that basket, but we'll see how that looks. But no, Rui and Gabe, I think, are the next trade targets, and both of them are playing their best basketball right now.
Yeah, I just don't think it matters. Like their basketball. Now look, their basketball has led to like you're absolutely right. In the comment section is absolutely right. Right. Gabe saw that. George saying Gabe saw that Celtic Green turned into Miami Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe was respectable. And I don't know about Austin. He was awesome tonight. Gabe was great. Sam Davidson ran the offense. Absolutely. The thing is though, like the trade that I wrote about, this is something I did write about today for Clutch Points. And it was about like DeJounte Murray. And in order to get him, it would cost 2 firsts and probably connect 2, as well as Rui and Gabe probably. And I would make that deal in a heartbeat. He solved so many issues for the Lakers, and they would, you're basically betting at that point that Jared Vanderbilt is healthy and is going to stay healthy, and will play even if like he isn't quite 100%. Right. Like that's been, there's some kind of noise behind the scenes that perhaps like, he has been waiting to be 115%. And I kind of get it, from his perspective. The injuries that he's going through are pretty scary for somebody who relies on his body for his salary, for his income, for his future. But you're basically, if you move Rui and you don't get a wing back, you're basically betting on Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt to be your wings outside of LeBron. And I understand some of the hesitancy there. That said, like, if you bring in DeJounte Murray and you go out and you trade for another big outside of that, like, that starts to look like a roster that I think makes a whole bunch of sense. I thought Max was excellent in this game. Like, this was, I really like, just to get back to the actual game that we just watched, I really loved the way that all of the players, especially the starters from both teams, really seem to understand like this game fucking matters. We are going. And they played at a crazy fast speed, and they were like throwing haymakers at each other right from the get. And I thought, like, it's pretty crazy that a 21-year-old who was completely out of the rotation earlier this year, fought his way back into the rotation, fought his way back into the starting lineup, and 1000% looked like he belonged on a basketball court tonight with LeBron James, with Anthony Davis, with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, guarding Jaylen Brown. The Celtics were basically going at Max Christie for a lot of that time too. And yeah, they scored some baskets on him, but it's also like, if you're going at Max Christie, if you're going at Austin Reeves, and you aren't running your drive and kick offense that just absolutely shreds defenses, then the Lakers are winning there. And I thought Max was 1000% ready for that moment, and 1000% ready for this game in general. I think this guy's going to be a starter on a championship team. I'm saying
our starting backcourt is drafted by us. I think that's really cool. Obviously, Austin's undrafted, but whatever, in our system, both of those guys came up through the Lakers, and this is where I'm at. A lot of this is trying to analyze who can play and who can't in playoff situations. And this is a game again where you answer a lot of tests. We joke about the Celtics and how they play the math game, whatever, but they contest the hell out of the 3-ball. And Max Christie being able to hit threes through a contest, I think he had 2 threes in the first quarter. And again, game is tight, right? This is before it got out of hand. Crowd going crazy. Like, this is playoff type environment where now you can test these guys and see who
Tone
can.
setting threes that he was hitting.
Exactly, and you kind of show who's up for this, right? Who's up for the fight? Who gets nervous? Who does the ball get heavy in your hand when these type of moments come? And I thought Max was awesome. This is I tweeted it out. It was a grown up game from him, not a flashy kind of line. I don't even have his line in front of me, but a couple threes, but the box outs, the defense on Jaylen Brown that you mentioned, the defense on Tatum, a guy that they entrust to go guard a 7-3 guy and say, hey, just don't let him put you in the basket. He shoots a turnaround fadeaway jumper, you won that possession. Max, to his credit, kind of forced Porzingis into those and just won the toughness and grit battle, got back in transition, got some cuts, I believe, at the rim as well. He was just a grown-up game. And then Austin as well, just a super professional. This is what I do. Like, I don't care who the opponent is. This is what I do, right? And like, that was so cool to watch for him. This was like last season. We were wondering, like, is Austin an on-ball guard, right? Like, oh, can he be on ball? Is he a connect? Remember that connector word, Anthony, that was coming up? You don't hear that word connector much anymore with Austin Reeves. That word has been thrown out the door. But tonight to watch him just, all right, what's the defense do? And I say this a lot, but he's moved from like reading a defense to manipulating it into like, where he's like, okay, I want to get Porzingis on me, so I get my step back three. I want to make you hedge this screen so I can fade a pocket pass to LeBron or a pocket pass to AD. And again, Austin, none of this looked too fast. The game didn't look too fast for him. Looked like he was reading every play and kind of understood where to go. So, our starting backcourt was awesome. And both of them being under the age of 24, 25, whatever Austin is, just super bright future. And those two guys are kind of starting on a team that thinks they can go the whole way. Obviously, we don't think we have the roster for that yet, but of whatever we whatever we bring in with a trade, those two guys probably continue to start just in, I guess, the trades that I want to bring in. But no, both of those guys were awesome and just, were big parts of the win of the year for the team.
Just really quickly run through some lines here. I should have done this earlier. And a quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. We have 2,000 of you watching, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube. So please do hit that subscribe button. Please do hit that like button. Let's keep this thing growing. But yeah, Anthony Davis, I thought, led the way in this one. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 of 18 from the field. Numbers that like don't measure up to his impact, I don't think, quite frankly. But I think that's kind of the theme here. It's a very balanced effort here. LeBron, 20 points, 14 rebounds for LeBron. He wanted this one. He had a couple big dunks. 14 rebounds is a level of focused and engaged that he just hasn't been this year. 6 assists for him as well. Austin, 23 points, 7 of 13 from the field. Had his progression to the mean game here because excuse me, he was like 2 of 8 in the Washington game. He was 4 of 8 in this one. Plus 14 for Austin here. Max was a plus 12. He only scored the 6 points, but like again, I thought the Lakers just looked better with him on the court. But like you mentioned earlier, so Dorian Finney-Smith, interesting here. 0 points from Dorian, 0 of 2 from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, a plus 20.
Yeah.
A plus 20. And then Gabe also was a plus 22 in 26 minutes for him. 12 points, 4 of 7 from 3-point range. Just absolutely had Peyton Pritchard in Alcatraz the entire game.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned all those lines there, and it was cool. And this is not to like go at D'Lo or whatever, but it was cool to watch Dorian being like, when you have Dorian on Tatum instead of a small guard, God. Like
it was so nice when like some wing would go to the bench, and then you would see like Dorian coming in, and you're like, okay,
yeah, we're not getting worse. Like we're gonna continue to have. Yeah, it was so crazy because I remember there was a position. I was like, oh, this game kind of feels like it's missing. Dorian hasn't played in a while, and I look at the scorer table, and he's standing there to come in. And I like these units where he's, people are ready to kind of send Rui off to another island. But I like the minutes where Rui and Dorian play together because it lets Rui kind of play his natural position sometimes, which is also a 4. I think we forget he's also kind of out of position a bit as well when he plays. But no, Dorian is switching on to Tatum, and having the ability to have Dorian and Max both switch off of each other at the top of the key and, you know, play this style that like we just did not have the personnel before to do like a year ago. But to your point, plus 20 for him. Still like him to be a little bit more aggressive with his shot. Anthony, I think he passes up too many. He's a better shooter, I think, than he gives himself credit for. But no, Dorian was everywhere, was rebounding, was running the floor. Again, just having a wing with size that switches and has a high motor. That's something that we've been missing. Another guy, I didn't think you read his stat line, but I thought Jackson Hayes too was
I was
great.
just about to say, yeah.
14,
14 minutes, 2 of 4 from the field, grabbed 8 rebounds in this one. And Sam Davison points it out here. The 2 big units have been great.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that the 2 big lineups have been great to this point with centers who aren't as good as the one that the Lakers are getting ready to acquire, whether that's Kessler, whether that's Vucevic, whether that's Jonas, whether like whoever it is, like the centers that the Lakers like that have been working alongside Davis and have plus numbers when they're playing alongside Davis aren't as good as the whoever it is that the Lakers go out and I'll say this. I'm like 85% sure the Lakers go out and trade for a center before the deadline. And we'll see what the roster looks like after that. But you know, I know there's a lot of noise about Vucevic. I know there's always been a lot of noise about Jonas or whatever, but yeah, the fact that they were able to get this, and I think they'll be looking to keep like Koloko, obviously, so that they still have that like athletic, you know, bouncy type of center on top of the bulky, maybe even floor spacing center that they try to acquire.
Yeah, it was interesting. Koloko obviously played in garbage time tonight, which checks off another game from him and the 2-way kind of restrictions that he's on. If it's not Alex Sarr, I really don't want a center from Washington, Anthony. So I'd rather have the centers that you name before that with Vucevic and Walker Kessler, but you know, can't be like too picky, I guess, in these situations. No, but again, I think Jackson Hayes' skill set is important. Now, he's not the player that you'd want with it. He's not as coordinated as you would hope your center is. Doesn't move his feet, doesn't make great basketball decisions at times, but that like just that archetype, the lob catching center that is super athletic and just like he raises our athletic floor when he's on the court. And that's just super important against Boston that plays a lot of small lineups, right? The Lakers hunted what's his name, Cornette, ruthlessly tonight. It was because just LeBron did not respect
like anytime LeBron sees a white guy on the court, he's going to hunt the white guy.
Especially if it's a tall white guy. It's just that
but it's also Peyton Pritchard. Like he did everything he could to get matched up against Pritchard. It's just like if he sees a white guy, he's going after the white guy.
But Luke Cornette got hunted, you know, ferociously. But you know, I thought Hayes, like he got a lot of offensive rebounds that he kept alive. Caught some lobs at the rim, got some weird and one finishes. Hayes is now, I think, won his last 2 games against the Celtics. He started that game in Boston last year as well. Had a big game, I believe, in that one. But no, just that archetype I think is necessary. We'll see if the Lakers kind of go a whole different direction with the neat names you mentioned in Vucevic and Kessler. I think Kessler is the best of all those worlds, where he's the athletic center that also is just very coordinated and one of the best shot blocking bigs, you know, that exists right now. Vucevic is in another realm where he helps you offensively. But yeah, that big man is extremely necessary. We'll see if JJ trusts Hayes in other big matchups, but this again is another test for me. And Hayes passed. I thought he had very good decision making and just controlled the floor when he was out there in the second unit. So good game from him.
Last little thing I want to hit on this, and we've kind of been, you know, kind of bouncing around this point, and I want to make sure I make it before we get to the starred comments here. But the second point here, you know, that LeBron and AD, I think, are always worth investing in. And it's like I've been talking with a whole bunch of people around the league, and the big conversation that I wind up having with a lot of people is like, people either look at the Lakers and there's like 2 it's like a Rorschach test, right? Rorschach test, or is it shock? No, I think it's shock. Rorschach test, where it's like you look at the same image and people see different things.
Yeah.
And the two like kind of most popular takes about the Lakers are, one, the Lakers are the only team in the NBA with 2 top 15 players or top 10 even players, especially in these big games, right? You can maybe say Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The Lakers kicked their ass tonight. Outside of that, I don't know who else would figure into that conversation. Maybe Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I don't really see it with Booker.
Yeah.
Maybe Nikola Jokic, because he's the best player in the world, and Jamal Murray. Like, they average out the 2 top 10, top 15 players, but
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has been fat for most of the year, so it's kind of hard to tell like who he's
Luka and
going to be.
Kyrie, maybe. Yeah.
Luka, Kyrie, kind of, but like defense
Yeah, Kyrie
matters.
doesn't really.
So
And Kyrie doesn't really fit into that. Yeah.
yeah. So like the Lakers, so like my argument with people is that like you have those 2 guys, you invest in those 2 guys, and you see what comes out on the other end of it. And then the other half of it is like those 2 guys have been a net negative this year, right? Their net rating when those 2 guys are on the court, and it's a pretty big sample size to this point, is a negative, and that's really hard to look past. And that in and of itself is reason to not invest in this team. But I still think in a playoff series where you're going to have fully engaged LeBron and fully engaged Anthony Davis, that is something that 0 teams want to see in a series, except maybe Denver. But but like 28 out of the remaining 29 teams do not want to see those 2 guys in a playoff series. And maybe, just maybe, the Lakers avoid the Denver Nuggets. In a
Terrible
playoff
way to go about it, but yeah.
I don't care. You know what? I still stand by the fact that they should have tanked last year.
No,
to try to avoid those fuckers. But like, still, at the end of the day, and the point that I think we absolutely need to hammer home here, Raj, they were absolutely the 2 best players on the court tonight.
Yeah.
And like, they were 1, 2, and maybe 3 and 4. They were so far ahead of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They absolutely lapped them in terms of impact on the game. And that's the thing that, like, I would just so much rather invest in those guys than limp to the finish line of the LeBron and AD era and then see what comes out on the other end as you get ready for a rebuild.
I'm with you. I hope that's the way they go about it. Again, I think if you don't go that route, I don't understand the other route, the Jonas route, where you able to kind of hold hostage your first round equity to kind of go get a center that doesn't really help. And I just want to add on, not going to kind of reiterate all your points, but I just want to add on, Anthony, Austin Reeves being this good is a gift. Like, it's a gift.
At $12 million.
That's the point I'm trying to make. This is an absolute gift. That you have this guy, and again, Austin's not going to make this amount of money forever. Starting whenever he's able to kind of get that extension, he's coming for every penny. You better remember that. But just for right now, you have a chance to kind of build around that. And I do, and like, Austin has the rare, like, this is the rare where he's young enough that he also has enough trust from the start. Like, that's a rare combination to be the age he is, but also already have like the superb trust of the best player on your team and the second best player on your team, to where that's the guy you go run offense through in crunch time, and they have full supreme trust in him. You can go build and go add to that. And that should be the thinking, to me, is like, you're starting from a point that's ahead of a lot of Western teams. And the Lakers, like, net rating, I've kind of stopped posting that as much, because I think it's just the context around that. Again, like, how do you contextualize that by the LeBron and AD you got tonight versus what you get from LeBron on night to night, where like the Nets ratings kind of spin from left to right.
He's 40. He's not going to be great night to night.
I do think the Lakers need to find a place where they know what they're getting night to night. I think there's a consistency that the Lakers need to find out, but yeah, from the net rating part. But no, you have the two best players in a series. You can go through down the line, whatever team you want. Steph is in this conference, Luka's in this conference, Jokic is in this conference, but they're co-star isn't going to be whoever LeBron and AD is. And then you have Austin Reeves, who's also this good, who's also kind of playoff proven. It's just, I think that's a hell of a place to build upon. You also have a starting two guard that's molding into his own. And, this is a team that I think is deeper than, maybe they even thought to start this year. But yeah, I hope you're right. I hope they do invest in them, and I hope some first round picks come out of the way for that. Again, that Reggie Miller kind of bringing up what Rob told them in the green room doesn't make me feel great. Like, yeah, you know what, Reggie, we're just not trying to be that aggressive. Isn't really like what I want to hear, the day of all these quotes come out. But we'll see what happens when the chips are actually down. I think when it comes to it, the Lakers will eventually make a move where they have to give up real actual stuff. But yeah, to your point, invest in LeBron and AD.
Like, if that is the case, like Reggie ran with something that he wasn't supposed to, good.
That's what it sounded like to me.
I want Rob on the record for saying like, well, we'll just see what we can do. Like, no, I like, oh boy, do I want to say this on the air? I will. So we hear a lot. Those of us who like try to report, we hear a lot. And one of the things that I try to do is like present the canary in the coal mine to bad ideas that the Lakers sometimes have. So when after last season, there was like that like week-long stretch where they weren't going to, or even like heading into the end of the season where, everybody knew that they should probably fire Darvin Ham, and most people like assumed that they would eventually fire Darvin Ham. But then like randomly over like a few days, I had enough conversations with people where they were like, yeah, but like still like, do you want to just see if you can have Darvin learn from this season? And like, I think I reported at that time for Lakers Daily that like, don't shoot the messenger, but just so you know, there are enough people I've spoken to who have indicated to me that the Lakers are like kind of fighting over this decision, right? And part of that is to like let people know what's going on there, but then also like part of it is to like let that message get back to the Lakers. Like, hey, look at the response to what you guys are thinking about doing, and I think it's really important. Like it's something that has kind of left, especially NBA journalism, where access really, really matters. Where like if somebody has a really bad idea, they'll kind of back off of it and let the idea come to pass rather than like help spell out the process that leads to that bad idea that maybe allows that subject to avoid executing the bad idea. And I think it's really important that Reggie Miller would be like, even if he wasn't necessarily supposed to, I think it's really important that Reggie would be like, yeah, this is what he said in a freaking like pregame studio meeting that we had. I don't think it's a great idea. I don't think it's cool that they're just going to write out the LeBron James AD era. Like, I'm glad that made its way to the airwaves. And I'm glad that they showed Rob Pelinka's face while it was making its way to the airwaves. Like, I think it's really important. Like, all right, man, you want to take the coward's way out here? Fine. But you got to freaking wear it. Like I went full Mexican. You got to freaking wear it, man. But like, you like this idea that they are just going to make these half measures or take these half measures as LeBron continues to hold off Father Time, as Anthony Davis goes out and absolutely dominates the reigning champions, as those two guys are the only pair in the NBA who are two top 10 to 15 players in the league. I'm not okay with like those, like the front office just running out this era, because if they make a decision and it doesn't work out well, it might cost them their jobs. That's the job. That's how this is supposed to work. You make tough decisions, and if it doesn't work out, it costs you your gig. But this notion that like you don't have to make every tough decision, and maybe just maybe an ownership group that doesn't want to fire you anyway won't fire you for decisions you didn't make. No, man. If like that to me is why Rob shouldn't hold the job if that's something he's cool with doing.
Yeah, and this feels like the earliest. Again, AD never really puts his hand on the button and increases the temperature, but this is the earliest I think he's done it, and I think it'll just continue to get hotter and hotter as there's there's less in action. So I think I like in my opinion they're gonna do something. I don't know what it is. Again, I was not a fan of the way it was presented, and I don't think Reggie that was supposed to leave that room. But it seemed like it did. So credit to him, I guess, for sharing that and putting that out. But no, again, I think this pressure is going to continue. Clutch is going to continue their pressure. LeBron started it with the margin for error conversation that he started last week when they forgot whatever team they lost to. And it started, and AD kind of upped the ante today with his quotes. It's funny though, Anthony, because you listen to. Like, this is not all that different than what the Warriors are saying on their end either. It's the exact same verbiage, the exact same conversation, the exact same type of words they're using. The difference is their stars have agreed to it. Their stars have come out with agreements into it, and their age kind of matters here. Steph is 36 or whatever it is. So he has, I guess, more time and can look at it as a next year thing. But I'm sure Warrior fans feel the same way. You mentioned who's the two best, like, top 15 players. Draymond's not a top 15 offensive player, but he damn sure is one of the 5 best defensive players in the league when he's healthy. You have that plus Steph should still be a kind of combination that you believe in, you invest in. But obviously it's not because of the wording that they've gone on. So it's interesting to kind of see the pressures from the different organizations. But yeah, it's seeing Rob's face on there while Reggie Miller comes out and says Rob is refusing to send any first round draft pick to help the immunity
going.
Yeah,
like Dan Wojcicki I've been talking about this for weeks. Dan Wojcicki went on, said it in his newsletter. Jovan reported it for The Athletic. It's been going in this direction. So whether or not Reggie was supposed to say it as explicitly as he said it, this is the direction that it's been going in. And I'm not okay with I'm sorry. This is where it's tough. Like the fanalist thing or the fan reporter thing is those lines get blurred. But we're like, and Harrison and I talked about this in a couple episodes that he and I did together, where it's like, I have the information. My job is to relay it to you, the fan. The thing is, if I, the fan, also have that information, it's difficult not to react to it. So like, as all of this is going on and Dan is reporting this and Jovan is reporting this, and I've been talking about this too. And then on top of it, apparently Rob is just walking into studio meetings and saying the shit out loud. All right, man. If that's your actual stance, if that's how you actually feel about the LeBron James and Anthony Davis era, then wear it. I know that like it's probably, the Lakers are probably going to be pretty upset with Reggie for saying that, but fans should be upset with the fact that the Lakers are headed up by a bunch of people who are more interested in climbing up the Lakers ladder than actually winning basketball games or actually pursuing championships.
But there's a reason why that, would not be said into a camera, right? Like there's a reason that was said in a green room behind somewhere in a probably less lit room of where, it's a little bit more intimate of a conversation between 2 or 3 people. There's a reason that wouldn't be said out loud. I don't think that's something you can come out and say. It would just, I think, go against everything that they're building towards, right? It's the whole point you have LeBron and AD is to go for it every single year. And I get
unless that isn't the point.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they feel like that isn't the point. Unless the point is just to ride this out, sell tickets, sell merchandise, and then have an opportunity to rebuild on the other end. Like, okay, fine, if that's how you actually feel, but you have to wear that. If that's going to be how you're approaching these last couple of years, fine. If that's your goal, if that's your stated goal here, cool. However, you get to own that in front of the people that you are actually like. You're Rob Pelinka only a couple of years ago said that like there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with
having LeBron's finals years.
stewarding LeBron's final years, especially while
Mhm.
he's still in his prime. All right, you're going to say that into a mic, but if you're going to operate in a very different way, then and this is the thing, like what they've been saying publicly and their actual actions tell two different stories. And if Rob happens to accidentally or incidentally or whatever say what their actual goal is in one of these production meetings, then you have to wear it. And either it's going to be interesting because they basically have two paths here, right? Where either we actually improve this roster and give these guys one final opportunity to win a championship here, or we don't do that. We keep our powder dry when it comes to our first round draft picks, and we make half measures and we improve the roster as best we can with the two remaining second rounders that we have at our disposal.
Mhm.
And we go from there. But like, I don't know. We watch a game like tonight. We watch those guys play the way that they did tonight. And I know how every Laker fan around the world feels about this team and about those guys if they play that way, especially in a playoff setting. And I think the path is pretty clear to me.
Yeah, yeah. The interesting part is you can look at the season any way you want to. So the Lakers are 4 games behind second, Anthony, but they're also only 4 games ahead of 12th,
Yeah.
right? So like whatever way you want to read that, you can. But I hope
Rorschach
these
test.
yeah, right. So I hope these type of wins put it in the place where you want to go for it and be aggressive. But Rob Pelinka, I think he gave the 30 game marker. This was game 42. I think you got a pretty good look. Obviously, you're getting Vando back on Saturday, so maybe there's one more game to kind of evaluate. But from there, I think you should have all your answers to the test. This is an open book test, and I feel like you should have all the answers now. The games have been played. The team has shown you who they are. LeBron and AD have shown you who they are this year. Are those two guys you're investing in? If yes, then go for it. If not, then have some serious conversations. You should not waste this year. And I'm sure Rob is thinking, look, yeah, my job was to steward the final years of LeBron. We've gave him the contract. We've brought his son over. We've brought in players that he's wanted. We brought in the coach that he probably wants. So I'm sure there's part of that as well. But yeah, it's tough. I'm hoping they go for it. And again, we talked about this in the last show, Anthony. You're limited by the CBA anyway.
Yeah.
You have two
You're
things
protected.
you can. You're protected
by the CBA. Yeah.
Yes, you're protected. So you have 2 picks you can move. That's it. Go move both of them and see what you can get. But
Yeah. Agreed. You play to win the games. All right, let's go ahead and get to some of these super comments here and get everybody out of here. But first, very, very importantly, especially tonight, we got to play this. One more time. You know what? One more time, because I just had a Boston fan tell me to shut the fuck up. All right. Let's go with actually, that was a Russell Westbrook fan who was upset at the fact that I said that Russell Westbrook grew as a basketball player. I hate Russell Westbrook stands. They are the dumbest basketball fans I've ever experienced. All right. Justin Tyndall, 16-6 at home, 3rd in the West, play next 6 on the road. Golden State, Hornets, 76ers, Wizards, Knicks, and Clippers. When can we play like we actually give a shit with effort and energy? Well, we did that tonight. Lakers did that tonight. I'm looking at those options there, or those opportunities there. Golden State with Vando back in the mix. Golden State has been pretty rudderless the last few weeks or so. That seems like a good win opportunity. The Hornets are going to be playing without Brandon Miller for the rest of the year. So that is another, should be win. The Sixers probably won't be without. They're a mess, but they also might have Joel Embiid back for that game. Maybe. The Wizards, the Lakers just beat. The Knicks are going to be tough. Winning in Madison Square Garden against this collection of New York Knickerbockers is going to be tough. And then the Clippers, we just saw how that went. I think 4-2, 3-3 is kind of the goal there.
4-2 makes a lot of sense. There's gonna be one game that they flip whatever it is, Knicks, and like hope it's not Knicks Hornets, but I could see something where they just mess around in one of those games. 16-6, by the way, that's a really good home record. That's a that's a better home record than the 2-seed Houston Rockets have. So Lakers have been taking care of business at home and taking care of business against bad teams. I forgot their record, but they have a pretty good record against teams.
Yeah.
Under 500.
Well, if they have a bad record against good teams and they're 6 games above 500, that means they have a really good record against bad teams.
Right. But I mean, you're supposed to at least take care of the games you're supposed to, and the Lakers have been doing that. They now have to kind of play better against the good teams. Yeah.
Ryan Lucas writes, Shams pretty clearly implying all day today that Kessler is a Laker if Rob is willing to give up both picks, a high price, but maybe worth it, JHS and both picks. Well, one, they would be asking for Dalton and both picks. I've said this, I've explained this on the show, but I'll continue to say it because I haven't really seen anybody else like talk about this, which is kind of weird, but the Utah Jazz are especially reticent to trade Walker Kessler to the Lakers specifically. And he's not even, people around the league don't even think he's on the market in general, but especially to the Lakers, because they think that with the picks that they already have right now with the Lakers, which I think is
top 4 protected. Yeah.
In next year's draft.
2027, I thought, isn't that?
Whatever year it is that the Jazz have the Lakers draft capital, they're concerned that if you have Walker Kessler, who is young and getting better, alongside Anthony Davis, who is still going to be really good at that time, that would make that would cheapen their own draft capital with the Lakers. So I continue to be told pretty unanimously that Kessler is not available specifically to the Lakers and also not really available to the rest of the league. He's a really good center. He's excellent defensively. He has great touch around the rim. He is young and he's on a killer contract for the next couple of years. That is not the kind of player that even a tanking team is looking to move off of.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's available. Yeah, he's available. 2 firsts, and Dalton. So he's not available. Like, because that's not really a realistic package I think the Lakers would ever kind of give up. So if a player like that, you could just say they're not available or whatever, they're available, and then give a wild asking price, which I think the asking price is crazy. I do think in mid-February, Danny Ainge will listen to real offers for him. I just can't see the Lakers getting to that point though. And he makes so little that, the salary that you give up probably doesn't mean much. So to your point, they'll probably ask for Dalton plus the 2 picks. It's a hefty price that I just don't see our front office paying for the center position at all.
Yeah. Ryan also follows up with Braun, quote, we can't depend on Vando being back. I haven't seen that quote. Now, Ryan also said a little bit earlier about Anthony Davis's comments. I thought these comments were fake, and then I've seen them floating all around the internet. Anthony Davis on his comments to ESPN. So he was asked about his interview with Shams.
Okay.
And this is his response. Quote, my whole career, I've been playing to the four, and we've seen how I play. I just feel a bit more effective, but the front office knows that. I've told them every year I've been here, so it's nothing new. That's lighting Rob Pelinka on fire. Like that is a superstar telling telling the media and telling the public, hey, this is what I've been asking for here. And they haven't been interested in abiding that request. That's pretty, again, especially from Anthony Davis, who is like extremely competitive, but also like very easy to get along with. And for him to go out here and now for basically 12 hours straight, make it known what he wants and that the front office has basically ignored for years what he wants. That's certainly interesting. I think it's worth paying attention to.
The strange part is, so they listened the first year. and then they won the
They
title.
won a championship.
And AD, it was sad to hear AD kind of reminisce about the title during his conversation with Shams. He said that was
Yeah.
the best,
Perfect
that was
team.
perfect team, which is sad because that perfect team didn't last a month after the title because they traded Danny Green, so they broke that up. And then AD asked for DeAndre Jordan, and I wonder if DeAndre Jordan, just in a weird way, just ruined that center, relationship with the
Yeah.
Lakers. Like, no more picks for you, Anthony Davis. Like, you saw what DeAndre Jordan looked like. We saw what Andre Drummond looked like. We're gonna kind of decide the centers from
What's
here
sad
on.
though is that like they started that next year. And I think a lot of people forget about this.
21 and
They
6.
started that next year with Marcus Gasol
Yes,
as the center who played
looked-
next to Anthony
it
Davis.
looked beautiful. It was
And Mark
amazing.
was a great positional center, great rim protector, also a fantastic facilitator. His shot was off that year. It never
He
really
wouldn't
came
even-
around
he
that
would
year. It
refuse
didn't
to
matter.
shoot. Yeah,
He wouldn't shoot, and when he shot it, it didn't look all that pure.
Nope.
He's the only player I have ever seen actually think ahead of LeBron in basketball terms, where I remember this distinctly. I forget who they were playing though, but there was a play where Mark had the ball at like the high post of the pinch post, right above like the free throw line there. And LeBron, if he wanted it, had a step on his player making a backdoor cut. And Mark threw that pass to try to throw LeBron open. And LeBron was a little slow to react to it. And I remember LeBron looking at Mark and being like,
You saw that?
whoa, hold on. This is cool. I have somebody on my level offensively here thinking like that. And it was excellent. But then obviously Mark caught COVID and never really got his breath back and never really got his conditioning back. Then the Lakers went out and traded for Andre Drummond, who they promised a starting gig to, and he and Anthony Davis never really meshed together. And kind of the rest is history there. But yeah, Mark was excellent. And Mark was incredible next to both LeBron and Anthony Davis. Now, the one thing I would say is, all right, AD, you want to be the 4, and we've seen it this year. He shot the ball much better this year from three-point range than he has the last couple of years. And so maybe that's a step in the right direction. But if you're going to play the 4, you have to be a willing shooter, and you have to be willing to knock down and take, wide open three-pointers when they come to you, wherever they happen. And he looks a lot better on above the break threes than below the break threes. He does not look very comfortable taking corner threes. But if you're going to make this work and the Lakers go out and get a center, Anthony Davis is going to have to be a legitimate shooting threat.
And I think part of this also, you went and hired a new coach, and the new coach kind of gets to set the basketball culture, Anthony, and the basketball philosophy of your team, just how the league kind of works. I don't think JJ is a too big coach,
No.
like a too big guy.
He's
Like
been
I don't
brought kicking and screaming to this
right.
point. While those lineups have worked.
Exactly. My guy Koloko can barely get on the floor because of this as well. And JJ loves going to Dorian at the 5, Rui at the 5. Even when the data says opposite, he continues to go to it. So that's part of this as well. And I'm not saying AD isn't making his voice heard, or the front office is like telling AD, we can't hear you, JJ's talking. Like, I don't think they're doing that. But I do think part of this is just building a roster that kind of makes sense with the coach. And I think AD is being put at the center position. I don't think AD is also saying he wants to play full time at the 4. He's just saying like, hey, can that be an option? Like, is that an option at all? And right now it's really not, unless it's Jackson Hayes. I don't think they're going to go out and get a center anytime soon. Maybe in a week or two when the trade deadline rolls around. But I think the Lakers are going to continue on to this and see what they can poach once the deadline comes.
Ryan Lucas, also Collins, Kessler, Mills for Rui, Gabe, JHS, and the first. Collins. Why am I blanking on Collins?
Colin Sexton.
Oh, Colin Sexton. I don't think you can get both for 2 firsts. Like, they're reluctant to part with Kessler only for the 2 firsts. I don't think they would be, willing to bring on both. But Lucas also asks, bro, have me on the show, I'll cook. I'm trying to figure out a way to do that where we have like a call-in segment or something like that. It's just kind of tricky with StreamYard and the type of link that I send to guests and stuff like that. But I promise eventually we'll do something like that. We did that with I think Lounge VIPs is what how we used to handle that. So maybe I'll send out like a temporary link to Lounge VIPs for like a Friday happy hour show or something like that, and we can all get together and talk basketball. It's tough when you don't necessarily know when all of the VIPs would tune in, and then it just becomes me and like 3 people talking basketball awkwardly because I've never had conversations with those people. But eventually I want to try to figure that out. And maybe the longer we do it, the better those shows will be. Raj, any final thoughts before we get out of here? An hour and 20 minutes in.
We get our Vanderbilt back on Saturday. Let's keep this going. 7 games above. Were you surprised before we go out? Were you surprised we're only like 4 losses behind the Celtics? That's like kind of weird, right? I mean,
they've had a shitty season. Like their fans.
I knew they were having a bad season, but I didn't know it was like to that level. I didn't know. Like they showed their record. They're only 31-14, which it feels like it would be more, but.
I made this point to Lee on Passport, which, by the way, Lee and I will be getting together tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll talk some Lakers Celtics tomorrow on the episode. But the NBA is like trying to make the NBA is trying to make the league and through parity a lot like the NFL, where everybody kind of sits around 500 and everybody has a chance at the playoffs there at the end of the season. And that's fine if you're in a 17 game season or an 18 week season in which you play 17 games, because that means like most teams are going to finish with around 10 losses, and 10 losses is very, very different from 40 losses or whatever that is. So I'm really kind of curious how all of this goes. But like, yeah, you're talking about the Celtics having a really bad season and they're 4 games ahead of the Lakers. And we've been kind of trudging through the mud throughout this season. Feels like the only teams that are actually happy with how their years have gone are OKC and Cleveland.
Yeah.
28 other fan bases are kind of looking at their teams like, God, this has been tough. And I just don't know how sustainable that model is. Like I especially if like the buzzsaws everybody is shooting for are the Oklahoma City Thunder, who nobody really knows about, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who nobody really knows about. So we'll see.
I wonder if Adam Silver does what he did with Zion a few years ago and was like, we got to get Wemby into this play-in situation. They're 12th right now, but they're like a game back of the Suns for 10th. I just can't imagine the NBA. I'm not saying they'll rig it to do this, but can't imagine they want a situation where Wemby's not playing some type of meaningful game at the end of the year. So that'll be something I'm interested in looking at. But you look at the West, Anthony. I mean, 12th and 7th are split up by a game. I mean, that's nuts. It's 7th and 12th by 1 game. Whole conference is into it. Whole conference has a chance.
But it means that like basically at the end of the year, everybody's going to be sitting there with like, 45-ish wins.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, 37 to 40-ish losses. And that's a lot of losing to go through. Like there is no more miserable experience than being a fan of a bad MLB team, because that team plays every night and they lose every night.
Right.
And you watch your team lose 100 games in a season or whatever. And like, that just beats you down. And that's the kind of thing that like ruins fandom. And if like your typical season in the NBA is going to be 40 losses, that's tough. The CBA is, I think, going to be we're going to look back on the CBA, and I think we're going to think of it as a disaster.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in the way that you have and the way that you did. That is going to do it also for this week's episodes of the Lakers Lounge podcast. So until Sunday, when do the Lakers play Sunday?
Play Saturday, don't they?
They play Saturday, so not Sunday. So tomorrow's Friday. They do not play. Saturday, they do play against Golden State. Sunday, they do not. Only one game on Saturday? What are you doing? I guess it's championship week for football. All right.
Oh, I thought that happened already. Was that not what Ohio State just won?
That was NCAA championship, and then now you have the AFC and NFC championships this weekend, and then you take a week off, and then you have Super Bowl weekend. So, and then the NBA can actually assign games whenever they want. Like, then they can open up the season and not sit there in the fetal position every time the NFL blinks.
That's
all right. Let's go ahead and get you guys out of here with a couple very, very important audio segments. We'll get this one.
Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like
And this one more time.
Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like that. Get that Celtic ass. I like.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, everyone.